first question. And if you take the papers on the table and flip them over, you'll see all the questions being asked of you tonight. So the proceedings for the first question is still going to be Alyssa, then Drayden, and then we'll start the rotation. So on that note,
Sorry, before we go, guys, to dinner, if you want to come up and get food, just so you don't have to wait for some people are using it and something wrong. Like, people can come get food while you go and you can't do that.
we're on a bit of a...
That's fine.
Okay.
Come get food while you
Okay. We're going to keep going with the debate. Okay. So, first question. Why do you want to be the Alma Mater Society's next Vice President of University Affairs? So, Alyssa.
The reason I want to be the next VPUA at the AMS is because, as I mentioned previously, I was deeply inspired by people who were in the role before me. I felt like I had built a lot of skills in leadership within orientation, such as problem solving, adaptability, and I really learned how to raise my voice when necessary. I've been put in positions where I had to work with Queen's administration, and it was difficult to navigate. But with the help of the current VPUA, I learned how to have that working relationship with them, but still being able to be a voice for students and stand up for what we all want and believe in. I've also been an advocate for diversity and inclusion in my efforts in orientation, and I really want to focus on that as well once I'm in office. I think the AMS is a really great organization and has a lot of potential, and we see it improved every single year. However, unfortunately, in order for us to make real change, I think we need to be able to make changes on small levels to make the lives of our students better and simpler. So, the reason I want to be VPUA in summary is I really want to do it for my fellow students and be able to be there to make their campus life better, more efficient, optimized, and be there to be a voice when necessary. Thanks.
Yeah, so I chose to run for the Vice President of University Affairs position as I didn't necessarily have an idea of getting into be the VPUA when I first started the AMS. In fact, if you asked me when I was Social Issues Commissioner, I'd probably say never in a day's chance of hell because it did not seem like a very active position that I felt was comfortable for. But through my times at the AMS and at clubs in Queens and also back at home, I definitely feel comfortable and confident in providing the advocacy and amplifying the voices needed for students. Additionally, the reason why I want to run, of course, is as a first-gen student going into post-secondary, I definitely want to make sure to emphasize the responsibility I bring back to my family on the achievements we can make. From my personal background, I definitely did not come from a place where this was necessarily ever going to happen, especially in such a senior management role. Definitely living on a reservation and having a mother who was homeless, it made the opportunities of my life a lot smaller. So it's more so just a complete phantomization that I'm even here right now. And so I would like to utilize my proof of development and resilience over time into the AMS and in their operations and advocacy efforts. Further, the passion for community with my past lived experiences as a First Nations, Indigenous man, and then also coming from reservation, out of province, and also someone who's had family members suffered from homelessness, suicide, etc. I definitely have a further understanding of some of the deeper issues here at Queens when it comes to lived experiences, and especially for those equity-deserving individuals. So I would like to advocate and really exercise the amplification of student voices to the university and be a liaison to be able to advocate on behalf of every student, FACSOC, club, and DSC.
Okay, so for the next question, Drayden, you'll start first. The Social Issues Commission has a mandate to engage with equity-deserving students on campus. How has your experience prepared you to support this commission?
Yeah, so I think my experience here, of course, I did get the opportunity to be the first Social Issues Commissioner external, where I got to engage with equity-deserving students through programs like the Braille Labeling Program, as well as the Queer Prom that we held as the first time since from back from COVID at that time. And also holding, even within my current year's position, was the consultation roundtables with a dedicated subsection for equity-deserving groups, where we got really good feedback on policy development, and I would love to continue and actually expand that work and put more resources and connections towards that across the commissions. And so I feel that my experiences through the Social Issues Commission, but also as VP of IEDIAA for QBAC, we got to look over and take a lens of environmental towards equity initiatives and seeing working with Yellow House on how can we get Queen's University to further divest, but also incorporating environmental training as we got to do with the Social Issues Commission back in Quebec last year. Additionally, the IEDIA work I got to do was having a demographics report and assessing how we can better improve the outreach towards getting more diverse members to our club and identifying the barriers that we're creating for equity deserving students. And so I feel that my knowledge through my positions on clubs, the AMS, and also my knowledge through lived experiences growing up, that I can definitely advocate and amplify and understand, sympathize with students.
Perfect. On that point, we'll move on to the next question, starting with like Alyssa. What's that? Oh, sorry. No, my bad.
My turn?
Yep.
Okay.
My bad. Sorry.
All good. So, how I would support this commission. Through my experiences within orientation, I've definitely come across a diverse array of students because I've been introduced to so many first years coming from so many different areas, different faculties, and it's really made me learn about how my perspective can be very different from others. And I've learned how to be very open to listening to that. And although I cannot always understand different perspectives, I can always be there to listen and help support in whatever way I can. And I would definitely bring that into the VPUA role. And I've proven with my experience in orientation, when I was a part of the orientation roundtable, I actually worked with the Social Issues Commission. We were doing, basically, we wanted to create engagement with equity deserving students through our Instagram. So we were making sure to promote resources, having an equity live stream where we'd discuss topics with students and engage with them. And I think through that work with the SIC and also with the equity director I was working with, I was able to engage with students and help them understand where they can get better support. But I think the only thing I can do as VPUA, which is super important, is being open to listening and being open to supporting in whatever capacity that means for the Social Issues Commissioner. Because obviously, with the VPUA portfolio, there are so many other commissions underneath it. So at the end of the day, I think what my role would just be to listen to the needs of the Social Issues Commission and try and see how they're going to talk to equity deserving students and try and support that and get the word out.
Perfect. Now we'll move on. Next question, starting with Alyssa, then Drayden. So, next off, the Clubs Commission is responsible for managing 300 plus clubs on campus. Currently, the level of clubs outweighs the capacity of the commission. As VPUA, what would your approach be to improving the efficiency of this commission and ensuring that the clubs community can continue to thrive?
I've gotten to talk with students firsthand about this issue. I've done consultations with some students, and just yesterday someone came up to me and shared with me that they had sent 14 emails to the Commission of Clubs and they had not received a single response, which is so unfortunate as a student, especially when they're trying to explore interests at Queen's. So how I would approach this is it's very difficult when the approval of all these clubs is put onto a singular person. What I think would be the best approach would be creating a team or jobs underneath that commissioner, so that way work can be delegated amongst the team and we can create more output, quicker responses, so that way students aren't feeling like they're not being listened to or their interests aren't interesting enough to become a club on campus. I think it's really important that interests of clubs and students are promoted. So I would definitely want to create a team that is able to respond quickly and optimize that process.
Perfect. Drayden, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, how I would want to approach this is, and this is something that I took as practice from last year's time as clubs commissioner, is, sorry, I do think that the AMS should take an approach that maintains the ability to keep the resources and not shorten them or take away them, nor do I think we should be entertaining the ability to take away the right to make a club on campus and the ability to coagulate with your students on common interests. Now, how do we address the problem then is to expand the resources. So last year as clubs commissioner, I increased by more than $2,000 the MOU with the SGPS. I had direct student job that is paid. Additionally, the clubs commissioner does have staff under them, but the solution is to have more and better delineated staff. So what we found last year was that people like the assistant clubs commissioner were boggled down by very administrative tasks that end up taking away from space allocation and then end up taking away from grants, decisions, etc. So it all very trickles down. And so I think to expand on that is to go for more adding new labor. I was able to get an additional administrative assistant added in my time as clubs commission, but I would think that more labor is needed. In making it more efficient and being able to have the time to provide all these resources, we do need to make more internal efficiencies, as my opponent mentioned. And so to do that, I would want to follow the methodology I created last year, the club grant methodology, where we saw a 7-business day turnaround from the post deadline of the grant in winter semester and got them their results really quick. I would also, in addition, as laid out in my manifesto, continue the 7-day reply rate mandate between all commissions and AMs, at least to update the students on what the status of their inquiry or request is. And additionally is to have the open door office hours available. So within any project leader AM or every commissioner is to have open door office hours that are available to book online, drop in person, or have an online call. And lastly is I would want to mandate and continue the club's data census to make sure we're assessing how much of our resources are actually provided to clubs. Thank you.
So for this one, Drayden will go first. The SIC external and internal split has been a contentious topic for years. As the exec responsible for overseeing the commissioners, what is your approach to addressing the changes the commission might need?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So with the discontinuation of NEWT's orientation, which I know is definitely something that's worrisome because of the lack of international dedicated supports and resources within the AMS, I do have laid out in my manifesto that I would want to start up the International Affairs Center, which is essentially a liaison center with the QUIC, but also providing supports for ORT with regards to international student event programming, as well as having continuous throughout the year offices and spaces that are student-to-student supports, much like our peer support centers, academic affairs center, and housing resource center. Further, with under the CAC, I do see the vision of that upholding its constitutional requirements. That is that it has to do event approvals, but it's also supposed to be actually in charge of fostering a positive campus culture, much like what we see with campus activity commissions or divisions within other student unions at other schools. So in addition to the International Affairs Center and the activities planning team, and then there will be the event approvals. I see it as 3 sub-portfolios with 2 more AMs and actually some teams in there to actually have the resources and provide more student jobs, especially within advocacy avenues that might be of more interest to international students as people who want to advocate for themselves and be able to do that with compensation. And with the events and programming, I see that the CAC could be working on possibly planning a tailgate if we can try to advocate to get the alcohol policy change within the university, planning a Frost Week alongside with ORT or another club in January, just to match again alongside other student unions. Things that are very creative and trying to be more fun with the AMS in regards to our events and programming and larger scale, more ambitious, as that's what I've heard from students throughout my consultations.
Drayden, it's working? Okay.
There we go.
So we're going to ask you guys to please use the mics from now on. So Drayden, you'll be going first for this one. Submissions made to the AMS Assembly show that AMS commissions have been consistently operating at a surplus. How do you plan to achieve financial efficiency in commissions, understood to be the maximization of the value derived from each student dollar?
Yeah, for sure. So some practices that I've gotten to learn over my time at the AMS and kind of innovate on myself, and I would want to make sure to kind of research properly and implement across the commissions, is making sure that, of course, every month to really review that budget, identify any surpluses or deficits, any to-be-paid accounts, and any reasons why anything's delayed regarding grant disbursements, and making sure to introduce on the Assembly report at the end a finance section which updates the Assembly on their most current reported audited operating financial statements. Additionally is that when I was in Clubs Commission, I passed to the Assembly was my budget, but also a coinciding cell breakdown sheet, which gave comments into the actual expenses that those large amounts of value are being spent on. And that's obviously a very important thing with such large budgets and student money. We need to make sure that we're spending this adequately and productively. So I would make sure and mandate across all commissions to do the same in presenting to Assembly a cell breakdown sheet with those comments necessary before the Assembly makes an informed decision. And lastly is, especially around financial transparency, a big part of this is not just the Assembly but also the board. I think with the board we need to start opening discussions. I've mentioned this in my manifesto under transparency and communication, being proactive, is to have discussions around either an ESG investing policy or an alternative, and additionally having discussions around returning open session tickets or released private meeting minutes that can be used so that the journal has the information to access to report on the board, but also so Assembly members can see what the board is doing.
Thank you. With this question, I think it's really important to recognize what the students are paying for. And at the end of the day, it's students that are financing these commissions. I really got to learn and appreciate that during my role as the ORT Concert and Communications Director. It was the first time I had ever been in charge of an enormous budget, and I didn't take that lightly. And I really got to learn what it was like to oversee a budget and understand where money goes. That being said, I think it's very important to be held accountable when it comes to student money. I think over the course of hopefully my term, I would make sure to reflect on where this money is going and hold commissioners accountable and understand what they're spending this money on. I think it's also very important to review budgets and go over them so that we can make sure that if money is spent on an event, if it's not necessarily getting student engagement, we find a way to reintroduce it into a different event, so that way that money isn't being lost. And I think
like Drayden said, it's really important to be transparent. I think at the moment, people don't necessarily know the AMS budgets, and I think it should be public knowledge since that is student fees. So I think it's very important to publish these budgets so that people understand what they're paying for, and that way we can make sure that when we're spending this money, it's not going to waste.
Perfect. That brings us to our last question. Okay, so according to a long-standing legend found in internal archives, it is often said during many AMS executive campaigns that, given the choice of which commission or office to cut, the Commission for Internal Affairs would be the one. Given that Internal Affairs is now an office, if you had to cut a commission, which one would it be? Starting with Alyssa.
Drayden, I would like to apologize in advance, but however, yeah, I think I would cut the Commission of External Affairs. I think the relationship with external organizations is so important to the AMS. However, I think it is a huge portfolio to put on a commissioner and still be underneath the VPUA. So although I would cut that commission, I think it's a great opportunity to align ourselves with other student organizations and make that a vice president role. Because when we're being represented to the city of Kingston, USA, bylaw, I think it's important that it is a person who we have chosen to be a representative. And I think that that commission is so important. However, I think it would definitely be better used as a vice president role.
Thank you. Yeah, so I actually was no offense taken to that because that is exactly how I agree. And speaking as the current Commissioner of External Affairs on leave, please. With why and how necessarily that can get done. So so most student unions actually across, even in the association we sit on provincially with USA, has VPEAs or VP Education, which are dedicated to external governance advocacy. That is aside from the university, because the university is a monolith on its own, so you really need a VP dedicated to that, as it is a school government, based in government. But you do need an extra VP to handle the municipal, provincial, and federal. Through my experience at CEA, I have been able to have bi-weekly meetings with Councillor Glenn trying to advance harm reduction, and we saw 50% reduction in UDSI fines handed out this HOCO, as well as I've been able to work with Fire and Rescue, Public Works Kingston providing our trash and cleanup services, in addition to provincial or bylaw and the police liaison team. And then of course serving on USA, I got to see what it was like in the required amount of work for provincial advocacy and to see effective advocacy. It is hard for the AMS to come to terms with like needing an external affairs position just because of advocacy oftentimes has longer term results. But we do need to make sure that in that commission, or in that VP role, those commissions set up have, just like the commissions now, short-term solutions and programs to help the current students as well. How we would do that, I would want to see through the AMS in the summer under the President's Caucus, an ad hoc working group between a board member, presidents of the FACSOCs, and the executives on developing how and what's the feasibility of the integration of a new VPEA. And then as well, we have to actually assess then what are the commissions under that VPEA. I think that the VPEA would be able to better do advancement work within the rest of the commissions, and then if the Commission of External Affairs is raised, you can bring back, if anyone's aware of the history of the CEA, is that it used to be two commissions, the Municipal Affairs Commission and the Academic Affairs Commission. So I'd want to see those come back, as we definitely need more academic advocacy regarding the Queen's Graduate Award and other financial cuts. So that type of resources and attention to detail is definitely needed.
Great, thank you for both your answers. We'll now begin closing remarks, and we'll begin with Drayden.
So I first off want to thank you again for all of you coming out, and want to say that I am super excited and honored to be running for the VPUA. It wasn't until last year that I officially made the decision that I thought I could be able to do this, and I'm super excited to have the opportunity, if elected, to represent you and advocate for you. I want to ensure that my advocacy is about amplification and liaising with the university on your opinions, your concerns, and what consensus us as students need for improvements in our everyday lives here at Queen's and on campus and off campus. Additionally, I would want to make sure to accentuate my 6 pillars, which is starting off with proactive transparency and accountability, If anyone hasn't seen, please check out the campus safety pillars. I know that right now there's a lot of rise in anti-oppression hate and a lot of increasing in the polarization around the world, but also on campus. And so if you want to know when you vote, what the approach is for campus safety and the transparency around that, the proactive transparency, if you will, then please go check that out. And yeah, thank you so much for everyone for having me, and please follow @Dre for VPUA.
I think we should just clap. Yeah. Thank you. So this evening, I hope you've been able to learn more about me, my platform, and the pressing issues that are being faced right now with the AMS. Drayden, you have a really impressive understanding with the AMS, and I am honored to run beside someone who also cares just as much as myself about advocating for students. I believe that everyone wants to see the AMS improve year after year, and that the executive who steps into this role is prepared for an always changing culture. I believe that my perspective is unique. I have a deep understanding of the AMS after working in a commission and sitting on AMS Assembly, but I also have an on-the-ground perspective within my faculty society, learning about issues people have with the AMS and things they want to see changed. As the first elected deslated team, the person who steps into this role must have the ability to build relationships and listen to the input and perspectives that aren't necessarily their own. I believe I have a fresh perspective to bring to this old system. Together, we have the opportunity to create a campus that reflects the values, ideas, and passions of every student. I believe that I may be just one voice, but with your support, we can amplify the voices of many. This election isn't necessarily about me. I think it's about us, our shared future, and the community that we're building at Queen's. I think we should make this a turning point where we don't just hope for change, but we actually create it. And if you believe in a brighter, more inclusive, and optimized future built upon connection, I'm hoping that we can build that together. I think that we could all be champions. Thank you.
Thanks again to our two candidates for coming out tonight. We will now be segueing into our next debate for the Vice President of Operations position. So that being said, we're going to take 2 minutes to get the table ready for our candidate. That being said, don't go anywhere. We'll get the show back on the road very soon. Oh, now we're good. Sorry, Jack. Okay, I think on that note, we're ready to get started with the debate again for Vice President of Operations. For this position, we have one candidate, so we won't be going back and forth like the last debate. We'll just be providing an opening and then asking 7 questions. So on that note, Alana, whenever you're ready.
Perfect, thank you so much. Hi everyone, my name is Elena Nurzinski. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm beyond excited to be presenting myself today as a candidate for the role of Vice President of Operations for the AMS. I've worked at the AMS for 3 years now, and I started my journey at Tricolor Outlet as a service staff. I then moved to CoGrow as a supervisor, but was quickly transitioned into the role of the Admin and Staff Relations Assistant Manager. And now I work as the Common Ground Head Manager, where I've gained experience with building a budget, a goal plan, and a marketing strategy. And I actively work to motivate and manage a team of 4 assistant managers, 7 supervisors, and over 80 service staff to attain our goals. I'm running in the election for 3 primary reasons. The first being that I want to continue acting as a mentor and a guiding resource to other students within the AMS. I want to continue to provide meaningful and experiential learning opportunities and support our service head managers and their respective teams in their roles. I'm also looking to expand collaboration within the AMS, both internally and externally, through building meaningful relationships between the AMS and other student groups. And finally, I want to learn more from the student community and implement their voices into actionable goals. My ideas involve 4 pillars, which are branding and engagement, community and relationships, accountability and efficiency, and transparency. I hope to increase AMS branding and engagement through collaboration with the AMS Marcom's office and service head managers to promote personable, educational, and accessible content across a variety of platforms. I hope to build community and relationships through collaboratively working with the AMS executive team, service head managers, commissioners, FACSOCs, and other student groups. I hope to promote accountability and efficiency through streamlining the portfolios of service assistant managers while emphasizing teamwork and creativity when problem solving with the service head managers and their respective teams to accomplish annual goals. And finally, I hope to promote transparency through the AMS VPOPs umbrella by keeping students updated on the portfolio work that I'm accomplishing and providing easily accessible and digestible information surrounding our operating budget. I look forward to the questions that I'll be presented with tonight and getting the opportunity to further present my ideas.
You want to start off with the first question?
Your first question is, why do you want to be the Alma Mater Society's next Vice President of Operations?
As I mentioned before, I am running in the elections for 3 reasons. The first and the biggest one being that I want to continue acting as a mentor to the service head managers. I've worked at the AMS for 3 years, and I've gotten so much from every single role that I've held. And I want to be able to pass that knowledge down to our service head managers and their teams. I think the AMS provides fantastic job opportunities to students, and being able to support a team of service head managers is something that I am really passionate about accomplishing. I also think expanding collaboration within the AMS is something extremely important. I've worked consistently to do this through my time at Common Ground, and I think it's a really important aspect to ensure that the AMS is, establishing strong relationships with the student body. And as I mentioned as well, I really want to learn from the student community and hear what they have to say about the AMS and what they'd like to see from it. I think there's always room to learn more and to grow, and I think to be able to take students' opinions and turn it into actionable goals is extremely fulfilling.
Perfect. Now on to your next question. How will you increase student engagement within the AMS?
I think it comes down to providing personable, educational, and accessible content through a variety of platforms. I think it starts with doing a survey about how students are consuming AMS content on campus. I think working with the AMS president and the Marcom's office as well to hold consistent monthly Marcus meetings is super important so we can establish clear goals amongst our services with marketing strategies. I also think not all students feel comfortable being a part of the metaverse, and I think a lot of the content that we post is done on social media. So I think expanding our reach to meet students where they're at, to provide marketing through various platforms is extremely important. That could be through having incentivized boothing or focus groups. It could be pitching stories to the Queen's Journal about exciting things that are happening with our services. And bringing back the AMS newsletter to send it to people in their emails. I had the pleasure of consulting the rector, Nikki Boychuk-Hale, and she conducted a student survey to see how students are consuming their content with things that are happening on campus. And she actually said that students prefer their email as the #1 choice. So even something as simple as bringing back an AMS newsletter to let people know what's going on with our services and the AMS as a whole can be super effective. And then I think just researching the trends of other student governments and student unions across Ontario and even across Canada, seeing what they're doing and what works for them is ultimately what can help establish student engagement.
Your next question is, as Vice President of Operations, you will be directly responsible for the finances of the Alma Mater Society, Incorporated. This includes a large number of permanent staff who contribute positively to the working environment at the AMS. Yet, with the increasing number of perm staff, the AMS has become increasingly more corporate, reflecting practices of larger corporations and thus becoming bureaucratic, and likely leads to unnecessary spending in various aspects of the organization. As Vice President of Operations, how do you go about untangling the organization's spending to identify areas of unnecessary spending while managing internal relationships?
I think something that's important to note is when you look at other student governments across Canada, the ratio of permanent staff to students is extremely different than what we see at the AMS. The AMS has one of the lowest ratios of permanent staff members to students. We have 800 student jobs that we offer, and I think we have roughly 15 permanent staff. This looks extremely different in other student unions where they can have up to 60 permanent staff working with students. So I think that's something that's important to bring up. I think when it comes to unnecessary spending, I actually think that these jobs that we're getting from the permanent staff are important to supporting our services. The addition of the 2 permanent staff members for the Queen's Pub are going to play a key role in ensuring the success of the operation. And we're still providing student jobs. With the pub opening, we're still providing jobs to head managers, assistant managers, supervisors, tons of service staff. So I think that's a really important aspect to look at when we're considering the perm staff ratio to the student job ratio on campus.
Okay, now for your next question. In fall year 2024, the AMS reported revenues of approximately $17.5 million, with a large portion of these funds coming from student fees. How does your background prepare you to responsibly manage these resources and ensure that the financial decisions you make are in the best interest of the students you aim to represent?
That's a fantastic question. I have strong experience with building a budget through my time at Common Ground. That job has provided me with the ability to look at different sectors of the service and see where we can reallocate money to provide the most to students. I intend on ensuring that these decisions are made in the best interest of the students. I think it ultimately comes down to, again, collaborating with individuals such as the Queen's Rector, or even getting the voices of our students themselves to see what they want from the organization. I think when you go to look at the biggest challenges that we're facing on campus right now, taking those into consideration and allocating resources to help mitigate those to support our students is something that should be taken into consideration when building the budget.
As Vice President of Operations, you are responsible for making financial allocations to be presented to the AMS Board of Directors. The Vice President of Operations normally looks at performance in previous years to make a budget allocation. Could you describe what your understanding of the allocation process is, and how would you balance previous year's performance with the goals of the incoming term?
I think my understanding of the budget allocation process ultimately comes down to reviewing how other years have performed and seeing what sectors we're overspending in and maybe what sectors we're underspending in. I think these do, change from year to year occasionally. And so just making sure that we're up to date with allocating our resources in the right places to ensure, again, that we're meeting the needs of our student population. I think when it comes to balancing the previous year's performance with the goals of the incoming team, again, it ultimately goes to looking at the needs of the students and what's in their best interest.
Okay, now moving on to our next question. In recent years, there have been calls for greater transparency in relation to the investments of the Alma Mater Society. How will you work with the AMS Board of Directors to communicate transparently with students with requests to spending and investments?
Oh, there we go. That's a great question. That actually is one of the pillars of my platform, is providing transparency, especially in terms of the operating budget. I will be honest, if I didn't have the experience that I have with my role now, I wouldn't be able to understand our operating budget and where our expenses are going to. I think the language and terminology that we use can be hard to digest. So I think that's a great starting place, is breaking down the budget to ensure that students from all academic and professional backgrounds can understand our operating budget and where their money is going and how we're spending it. I think it's the least we can do when it involves student dollars. So yeah.
Your final question is, in March 2011, at the Annual General Assembly of the Alma Mater Society, the following motion received support: that AMS Assembly strongly recommends the renting of a bouncy castle and provide pink fluffy unicorns to the responsibility of the incoming AMS Executive and Council to make it available to all undergraduate students. As the Vice President of Operations, you would be consulted on any motions with financial implications for the Society. Would you support a motion to provide a bouncy castle to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Internal Affairs Office in April 2025?
I think that sounds like a super fun idea. I definitely like that idea. I don't necessarily know if that's in the best interest of the student body in terms of allocating our dollars to have that, but I do think that we could involve maybe our student services and our students themselves to make sure that the 10th anniversary of the Internal Affairs Office is as special as possible, but I think there are better ways to invest our dollars.
Thank you so much. We will now move into your closing statement.
As I mentioned in my opening statements, I will work towards increasing branding and engagement within the AMS to ensure our services are accessible to all students. I will also work to build community and relationships through collaboration with the AMS executives, faculty societies, and other student groups on campus. Further, I intend to actively work to promote accountability, efficiency, and transparency within the AMS through an action-oriented approach. I believe my 3 years of experience in operations makes me an excellent fit for the position of Vice President of Operations, as I can act as a guiding resource, provide support, and empower the service head managers and their team through my own personal experiences. My experience also provides me with the ability to navigate internal operations within the AMS services and work collaboratively with the service head managers, commission, and AMS executive team alongside the permanent staff members to strive towards attaining a better student life on campus. I'm a hardworking and passionate person who is always willing to learn from others, and I hope to build on the positive impacts our current team has made while adjusting any failures to create a better student experience. If elected, I will embrace the challenges this role has to offer and ensure the AMS operations umbrella accomplishes its goals to ultimately fulfill the AMS mandate of serving and representing the broad diversity of students on campus. I'm grateful to have gotten the chance to present myself as a candidate in the AMS elections for the role of Vice President of Operations, and I feel honored to speak in front of everyone tonight to share my ideas and goals for how I can improve our student community. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who came out tonight and who joined online as well. I wanted to give a special thank you to the Common Ground team who has been so patient with me as I've embarked on this journey. And I want to thank my family and friends who have joined the live stream tonight, offering me their support from the moment I shared my idea that I intended to run for this role. And a special shout out to Sam Barton, my campaign manager, who has put countless hours of hard work into making this dream of mine possible. I hope everyone has a fantastic night, and please get home safe.
Thanks again to our candidate for being here and presenting tonight. We are now going to take another 2 minutes to set up the table for our presidential candidates. Thank you, everyone. Apparently I have a little piece of cotton on my beard, and I'll notice. No rush. Okay, do you want me to lead into this one, or do you want to do it?
You can go.
Okay. Okay, everyone, it is time for the presidential debate. So we will start with openings. The order will be Jana, followed by Nico. So Jana, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Jana. I use she, her pronouns. Thank you so much for sticking around for this long and being willing to stay here. It honestly feels incredible being here today, and like many of you, I came to Queens really hoping to find my place in this community. I was hoping to always make an impact. I was hoping to grow as a person and hopefully leave this campus a better place than the way I found it. But what I really did not expect was how much this university would actually end up shaping me, and the challenges that would ever come my way that would help me become the person I am today. I also didn't always see myself reflected in a lot of these spaces that I entered, but it was through a lot of leadership and advocacy and working along so many of you here that I realized the power we have to create to change and change together. Whether it was maintaining students' wellness, whether that was my roles within peer wellness, or helping make sure that residents' life was more inclusive, or advocating even on an equity basis for accessibility through my various roles. I've poured my heart into this campus because I believe in the potential of the students in our community. I'm running to be the AMS president because I've seen both the strengths and the gaps of our student government, working within it and outside of it, and I know we can do better. We need to make this AMS more accessible, collaborative, and transparent, and one that really listens to students, continuing to break down barriers and foster that trust. Honestly, this is not just a campaign to me. It's a lot more personal. I know how much it means to feel to be seen, to be heard, and to have someone to fight for your needs. And that's the kind of leader I aim to be, and I hope to be if elected. Someone that doesn't just represent you, but works with you to make sure your voices shape the future of your university. Thank you again for being here tonight, and I look forward to sharing my vision with you.
I want to continue with what my opponent said and say thank you for everyone for attending this. It means a lot to see so many people here engaged. To me, it means so much. And I'm just going to start off by saying, first and foremost, my name is Nico. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm in my 5th year. A little bit about myself is I was born in Colombia. First generation family. We moved here when I was 6, and we grew up in Ottawa, Ontario. I still remember when I was 14, I started worked multiple different jobs. At that age, as a dishwasher, mowing lawns, I lifeguarded, I did IT at some point, and I was very fortunate to save enough money and study really hard in high school to make it here at Queen's University. Unfortunately, though, I came during a very, very tough year, which was the COVID year of 2020. And it was tough, but we made it, and I came here during my 2nd year in person and had the wonderful opportunity to spend 4 years in Kingston at this point, 1 year of which I was doing my QUIP internship with Smith Engineering, spent 16 months doing that, and I'm so happy to be here with you all today as a AMS presidential candidate. A little bit about my pillars. I want to talk a little bit about engagement. I think there's a lot of opportunity for there to be more representation for international students, for off-campus students, for online students in the AMS. I think it'd be pretty cool if we could, spread the message about what we do on behalf of the AMS to first-year lecture halls. I know if anyone's in engineering, Dr. Abelson is always more than welcome. And I want to reimagine, similar to a lot of like what my other candidates have said, I want to reimagine the club commission. A little bit about communications too is I also want to introduce an AMS Digest on behalf of the Queen's Journal. And I do think the AMS has a very important role to be very present in orientation, SOAR, and other experiences in Queens. I want to advocate too. I think the position of president is also an advocate role. I want to advocate for international students, students of marginalized communities, online students, off-campus students, students feeling unsafe on campus. I also want to advocate for students dealing with accessibility needs, housing and food insecurity. These are issues that I think the AMS should and will advocate for. I also want to be very sustainable and open an AMS Repair Cafe. Thank you so much. My name is Nico.
So for the first question, we will. Isn't it Jan?
It's still
Okay. Sorry, we'll start with Jana. Why do you want to be the Alma Mater Society's next president?
Okay, so I've actually been answering this question a lot, but I think the main reason I want to become the next AMS president is because I do see such an incredible potential for the AMS to be a lot more stronger, to be more accessible, and a lot more of an impactful resource for students here at Queens. Throughout my time here, I have had the privilege of seeing a lot of different leadership roles where I've also worked closely with a lot of students from different walks of life. These experiences have shown me what works well, but also where there's also continuous room for growth within our student government, really being that center of student life. I believe that the AMS should be doing a lot more to break down these barriers and has the ability to do that while amplifying student voices and fostering a true sense of trust and collaboration. I've continued to witness students struggle to access resources, feel disconnected from a lot of the decision making that happens, and navigate systems that aren't always made clear or equitable to them. And I want to change that. My campaign really focuses on that within my 3 pillars, and these aren't really just buzzwords: accessibility, collaboration, and transparency. There are a lot more of actionable goals that will make sure that the AMS becomes more approachable and ensures that students really feel heard and provide better clarity around how the AMS truly serves them. I want to make sure that every student feels empowered to engage with the AMS and not only engage with them in times of distress, whether it's through accessing resources or driving advocacy, or even just simply feeling like a part of something bigger. Ultimately, down to the core of it, I want to be the next AMS Pres because I'm passionate about student advocacy, and I want to leave Queens knowing that I've contributed to a more inclusive and supportive campus. I believe that I have the experience, the vision, and the commitment to make that happen, and I'm honestly ready to lead with purpose and collaboration. Thank you.
Having been now in this university for 5 years, I've had the pleasure to work alongside clubs, design teams, the student experience office, the off-campus living advisor, both Adam King and Marianne. I worked alongside faculty and staff in arts and science and Smith Engineering. I've also worked alongside the Arts and Science Undergraduate Society. I worked alongside the AMS and the CFRC radio show. I have, through all those experiences, had the pleasure, and I really do mean it, I really have had the pleasure to meet so many students, staff, members of our community, and the amount of support and encouragement that was given to me to do this is, till this day, kind of really, really heartwarming to me. As a person, I'm passionate about student life, student advocacy, student politics. I recognize that a lot of our students that we represent as student leaders feel worried about times ahead. They feel uncertain. And I hope to be the student that students can trust in these uncertain times. And I love this school. I love this community. I love the people who work here and work every day to ensure that student life and campus is just better. And I hope that if I am elected president, I can work to ensure that that's exactly what we continue to do. Thank you.
Okay, now on to our next question. The AMS Board of Directors has a mandate to manage risk for the society, which is more often than not presented in reputation risk. How will you, as AMS president, balance the reputational risk that the board is concerned with the responsibilities of the Internal Affairs Office to promote a high level of transparency and accountability? So, Nico, whenever you're ready, you have the floor.
I think the AMS Board of Directors is a very unique very unique part of the AMS that we have here. It's overlooking a lot of our financial decisions, and of course, a lot of this information that is shared upon the Board of Directors is sensitive, and I understand that. It's equally as important to be as transparent and honest, and I think that's also ensuring that we are continuing our reputation to be an organization that is honest with our student body, that is transparent with our student body, and communicative with our student body. A lot of the decisions that the committees make in the strategy committee, in the audit committee, in the investment committee, in the finance committee, in the governance and personnel committee as well, these are decisions that impact students day by day, and also at the end of the day affect our organization. I want to make sure that our relationship as with the other members of the board is strong, communicative, and reflective of the AMS as a whole. And of course, with the Secretary of Internal Affairs office, I think it's extremely important to remain transparent and remain honest with the individuals working in the Secretary of Internal Affairs office, and to make sure as president that we have a strong relationship with both parts of the organization. I think it's important for anyone who is president of the AMS and the other executives to remain to have a positive and communicative relationship with both parts of the AMS. Thank you.
Okay, so I think when it comes to this, I think balancing reputational risk with the responsibility of the Internal Affairs Office to remain that transparent framework requires a really thoughtful and hopefully a proactive approach within clear communication and policy frameworks. First of all, transparency is not a liability. It's actually a tool for building trust. Openly sharing a lot of these decisions and processes and rationales behind actions will not only ensure our decisions, but also will make sure we demonstrate integrity and commitment to the accountability we want to hold as an organization. Hopefully that helps mitigate a lot of the reputational risk, because stakeholders, whether they're students or staffs or even external partners, hopefully continue to feel valued and informed. Transparency continues to build that credibility, which is the foundation for a strong reputation. I also believe that proactively identifying and addressing these risks through internal reviews and consultations with a diverse set of stakeholders will ensure that our policies and procedures align with the organization's values and mandates, while also anticipating any potential areas for concern. By addressing these issues before they escalate and become risks, we manage them effectively without compromising any form of openness. And also, we continue to find a balance between our openness and our discretion, while it stays important for the Board of Directors to hold some form of anonymity in that sense. While it's important to share information that is like sensitive matters, personnel issues, legal concerns, whatever that may be, it must be handled with confidentiality to protect the individuals of the organization. But regular communication and education from the office's efforts in risk mitigation and accountability will continue to reassure our students and our members that decisions are both ethical and responsible. When people see a consistent and principled approach, they are more likely to support the work that we are doing. And hopefully maintaining that kind of transparency will be seen as a strength. Focusing on risk management and communicating effectively, I think we can ensure that the Internal Affairs Office can continue to uphold its mandate while safeguarding the organization's reputation. Thank you.
For the third question, Jana, you'll start. As AMS president, how will you ensure equal representation for students across all faculties, disciplines, and year?
It's really important, as someone that is supposed to be the voice of 25,000 people, to really emulate all faculties, disciplines, and years, and it requires a lot of intentional collaboration, and as well as continuous open communication, and then as well a commitment to inclusivity. First of all, I prioritize engaging with the FACSOCs. These organizations are uniquely positioned to understand the needs of their specific diverse set of students, and by strengthening our relationships with the faculty societies through whether it's regular meetings, President's Caucus, and promoting their causes and ensuring that we have a collective vision. This could include
and we could just ensure that each faculty's voice is heard and that the students' needs are continuously represented at every level. We'll also work with clubs. I think they're also really essential for connecting with the student body, whether that's diverse interests, programs, and years. We'd work to hopefully continue build some stronger partnerships with the clubs by creating a more accessible platform for them to reach out to us, whether that's through drop-in hours that I hope to be implementing, hosting events, or even promoting their causes. And really, I will knack it down to that President's Caucus is a really powerful tool for representation as well as assembly. I would really leverage these platforms to bring students together and across faculties and disciplines and to discuss the challenges and propose solutions on an internal basis. Ensuring that every president has an equal opportunity to share their feedback, we can make sure that we address these gaps and highlight all groups on campus. Additionally, using things that are data-driven approaches to understand student demographics, we will be able to identify whoever may be left out of these conversations, whether that's through, again, the drop-in hours or town halls or feedback surveys, through the marketing research team, and honestly, really targeted outreach. We can really help resource like a lot of these students' voices and make sure that they're always present in the room. Honestly, ensuring equitable and equal representation means recognizing that collaboration is key for this, listening and empowering and working along fac-stocks, clubs, and other student leaders on campus. We can create a student government that truly reflects and serves the entire Queens community. Thank you.
I think it's important to recognize that every faculty, discipline, even like first to fourth to fifth year, have different needs and wants from the AMS. For example, the Health Sciences Society advocates for the AMS opt-in fees for online students. The Engineering Society advocates for orientation week. Different years care about different things. I think it's extremely important that we have a co-working relationship with faculties, with clubs, like my opponent mentioned, with different years and disciplines. I think that means being honest, being respectful, and being active. A lot of our students, faculties, and programs are struggling financially and in other ways, and I think the AMS has to play a supportive role. Faculty societies, clubs, presidencies know best about the issues that their students and that their students face. And I think it's important as an executive for the AMS and the organization of the AMS as a whole to listen, to engage, and to work with students, clubs, faculty societies to ensure that we are there for them and that they know that we're present and we're consistently thinking about them when passing motions. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to our next question. How are you going to promote peace, safety, and respect on campus, especially with respect to religious minorities such as Jewish students? Nico, we'll be starting with you.
I want to start off by saying a fact. And the fact is that, especially lately, our campus has not been safe for Jewish students. There's been too many instances. Not too long ago, there was an incident last year. There was too many incidences in residences. Something that I had a conversation with the former Resident Society president, Nathan, with. And for the record, I'm glad that there has been some action and there has been cameras implemented in residences. And it made me realize I had a privilege. I'm proudly Latino. I previously mentioned that. I'm very proud of my South American backgrounds. And I feel safe being able to express that identity on campus. It saddens me that that's a privilege and that so many students can't say the same. If you're a student at Queen's University, I want this to be very, very clear. If you're a student at Queen's University, this campus is your home, and you deserve to be safe in your own home. Not too long ago, in the previous assembly, if I recall on Monday, Hillel had the opportunity to present Holocaust remembrance of the Holocaust. Thank you. And it made me also realize that hate crimes, especially towards our Jewish community, has always existed on our campus. And that's why I think it's extremely important that the AMS takes a very active role to ensure that there's more action being done to listen, to work, and to communicate, especially with the communities dealing with hate crimes. We have to listen to these communities. We have to also ensure that we're working with stakeholders to ensure that there's affirmative action being taken place, to offer additional support, mental health support, and ensuring that our employees are trained, ensuring that we're nullifying these acts, because hate crime has no place on our campus. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I think promoting peace, safety, and respect on campus, especially for religious minorities and in particular to Jewish students, is really personal to me, and I do believe that every student really does deserve to feel valued, heard, and safe in this community. Like I was saying in my opening statement, I wanted to find a community here in Queens, and I had the privilege of being able to, and it would be horrendous to know that that isn't possible for some students. First and foremost, to really ensure that we are going proactive with this, I want to continue listening. I want to listen to the experience of religious minorities on campus. It often includes the challenges that many of us may not even fully understand, complexities beyond our own understanding and our own grasp. By truly listening to students' stories, whether they're about facing discrimination, whether feeling isolated, or simply even wanting to share their traditions, we continue to create a foundation for not only empathy but solidarity. I would prioritize spaces where Jewish students and other religious minorities can also continue to share their voices without fear, knowing their concerns will lead to meaningful action. And also, I do really believe in the power of education and awareness. Within my time with the sick, really education and awareness has been such a huge part into making sure we are able to continue breaking down those barriers so all students, especially those from marginalized backgrounds, continue to thrive in our spaces. And I want to counter that by fostering opportunities to learn about one another. I think hate and misunderstanding thrive on ignorance, and we need to be able to combat that. Whether it's interfaith panels or even cultural celebrations like the Equity Gala and open dialogue, we can continue transformative to ensure that we are helping each other. And these initiatives aren't just like events, but they're really to hopefully continue build our community and our culture here at Queens. I also want to ensure that there are proactive safety measures so that all students, especially those from marginalized backgrounds, continue to feel specifically and emotionally secure. So I think all of it really goes down to, my goal is to ensure that we continue building a culture of love and mutual respect. This is more than just policies or events. It's about showing up for each other consistently and standing up against hate with one another. I think it's all about celebrating the richness of the diversity brings to our campus. It's about making sure that every student feels like they belong here and are not just individuals by themselves.
Janelle, you'll answer this question first. In recent years, we have seen an increased number of permanent and full-time employees. Would you, as an executive, consider increasing, decreasing, or maintaining the current staffing level at the AMS?
I think also it's really important to look at how our student government works. I think the increase in the recent years almost reflects a commitment to providing consistent support and expertise within our organization. With the year-over-year turnover, there is a need for institutional knowledge and there is a need for continuous support. Whether to increase, decrease, or maintain this number honestly really depends on balancing operational needs, whether financial sustainability and ensuring that student leadership development stays at the forefront of this organization. I would honestly prioritize maintaining the current number of permanent staff as we are at, while conducting a thorough review of their roles and impact. Permanent staff honestly do provide a really crucial institutional memory and stability, especially in, again, this high turnover environment. Their experiences also do provide smooth transitions, whether we're looking at things like accounting. However, I do believe that it is essential to periodically evaluate these, whether their roles are aligning and they're evolving. For example, if there are areas where students could be better empowered in decision-making roles, we could continue to explore those to enhance those opportunities. Student leadership will hopefully continue to be a core part of the organization, because at the end of the day, we are students. This is an organization that is made by students. If operational gaps are identified, I guess I would advocate. If they aren't, that is honestly based on how that turnout bees. Ultimately, my approach would truly just to be to strike a balance, maintaining enough permanent staff to provide stability and expertise while ensuring that students remain the primary drivers of our organization's vision and initiatives. Thank you.
As executives hopeful, I think we all have the responsibility to ensure that the AMS continues to be a sustainable organization. And I also equally acknowledge that permanent staff have the knowledge to help future executives guide the AMS forward. I think there's opportunity to expand on permanent staff. I think permanent staff offer, like my opponent already mentioned, the knowledge for future executives to really get things going fast. And I think it's extremely important that as an organization, especially like my opponent mentioned, at the end of the day, we are students. We are students who, most of us are around the age of 20, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23. And sometimes it's extremely important to have that more matured perspective from permanent staff. And I have had only the opportunity to meet one, but the only permanent staff I've ever met has been someone who's very, very kind, very lovely, someone who I seen as someone who could be communicative, supportive, and I think that's extremely important for any AMS executive to have, alongside our commissions and our head managers and everyone else a part of our team. Of course, I think there is some commissions that may need a bit more support. For example, our club commission. I think there should be discussion to see if there's any idea of expanding our permanent staff to support our clubs, as it's a growing issue. I mean, just October Assembly, if I remember correctly, that we had a conversation if we should even stop ratifying clubs. And of course we shouldn't. But I do think there's a space for expanding permanent staff, and I would totally be open to exploring the idea with the Vice President of Operations and the Vice President of University Affairs to see the logistics behind it, but it's something I would most definitely support.
Okay, we will now move on to our next question. Do you plan on advocating for undergraduate students impacted by the budget cuts? Nico, whenever you're ready.
Sorry, I was looking for my notes. I think it's very, very fair to say that students feel anxious, they feel concerned, they feel worried, uncertain about the times ahead. I've had the wonderful opportunity to, and the ACES assembly, the ACES team might be able to back me up on this. I had the wonderful opportunity to discuss with Dean Bob Lemieux and the ACES assembly back in December. And back then, we had discussion of budget cuts happening to the Faculty of Arts and Science and how that may impact programs, how that may impact students. And it's extremely, extremely important that we ask hard questions. I think as representatives, as student leaders, we have to do that, and that's exactly what I did. I hope that our relationship with the university administration can be transparent, it can be honest. I respect the university administration, of course, but I also am not afraid to ask hard questions. To answer this question of do I plan on advocating for undergraduate students impacted by budget cuts, the answer is this: yes, of course, because those students that are very, very much worried about everything going on. And as the AMS, as a representative of all students, a student-run organization, the oldest of its kind here in Canada, we have a fundamental responsibility to ensure that this organization is standing strong for students that are worried and that are just generally just concerned. I've had too many conversations, may I add. I've had too many conversations with students coming up to me, from the last few days of campaigning to even just one-on-one conversations with just me being me as a normal student talking to people, of just students being like, am I even going to be in my program in 3 years? Am I even going to be able to graduate in my program This is so concerning. I've also had the wonderful opportunity to talk with programs and department heads, more specifically in the class of drama and linguistics. These programs and the students that are in these programs need to be heard. And the AMS, again, may I have to add to repeat this, the AMS has a fundamental responsibility to ensure that when we're talking with the university administrators, when we're talking with people who are making these decisions, that we make the voices of students clear. Of course, I understand we have to have a working relationship, but to be clear, yes, I will be supporting students who are impacted by budget cuts. I hope I made myself extremely clear. Thank you.
That's okay, thank you. Okay, so almost to reaffirm what Nico said here, budget cuts are really important to address. That is something that I do very heavily plan on advocating for. A lot of that within even the changes with the degree frameworks that arts and science has been seeing directly impacting a lot of students' experiences and opportunities. I think it makes it extremely crucial for the AMS and myself, if elected as AMS president, to continue advocating for them. Firstly, I really do want to ensure within my advocacy process that students' voices are continuously represented in the decision-making processes. If this involves regularly meeting with the faculty leadership, so our ASIS exec, and to ensure that there is a rationale behind these changes. I've had the chance to talk to the dean. The dean of arts, I also had the chance of coming to an equity town hall we once hosted when I was the social issues commissioner. But I think a lot of that comes to down to these conversations, and as well continuing to make sure that the changes that are happening are really transparent and told to students the way that they should be, and how it could be affecting their degree completion, and as well as course availability, which has been a huge thing that has been happening to a lot of our friends in the arts and sciences faculty. I would also really push for a lot of consultations from the senior admin making these decisions on behalf of them. And as well as making sure to take a lot of these opinions and a lot of what the students have been telling me back to the University Senate to ensure that they are going to the accurate avenue for advocacy. I think a lot of it really comes down to collaborating with our FACSOC as well as the arts and science faculty itself to make sure that we are continuing to amplify each other's advocacy efforts and presenting a really united front as a team, and we can demonstrate a lot of a collective student voice and push for really meaningful accommodations through these processes. I think transition support from the AMS as well as the arts and sciences faculty will really help students navigate these changes, and it really becomes a priority of ensuring that students again are really feeling heard and understand the changes and how it will be affecting them. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our final question. The Internal Affairs Office is the center point of autonomous processes within the society, especially elections, judicial, assembly, and JCOM. Members of the office access records with a high level of confidentiality and often have a significant level of decision-making autonomy and discretion in various portfolios. As such, the office is often seen as the first level of accountability for the AMS. What is your vision for your relationship with the Internal Affairs Office, and how do you plan to support members of this office without undermining or interfering with key governance proceedings?
Perfect. So I think honestly a lot of it comes down making sure that we're working with the Secretariat, who obviously understands the Internal Affairs Office very intimately. I mean, we are here thanks to the Internal Affairs Office. It truly is the cornerstone for our governance. So requiring strict confidentiality is not only needed, but it is truly unwavering in the fact of the independence that it is to uphold its mandate effectively. My vision is to continue building a relationship based on trust, respect, and empowerment, ensuring that the office feels like it can thrive without interference while maintaining aligned to the broader organization goals. To achieve this, I think a lot of what I would be doing is prioritizing setting some of those clear boundaries and collaborative engagement. That means respecting their autonomy through governance proceedings, while also maintaining an open and structured communication channels and only really stepping in when needed. Regular check-ins also would just allow me to make sure that I understand their needs, their challenges, and even opportunities for growth without undermining anybody's independence, because that would be the last thing I want. And additionally, I would really focus on proactively supporting the office. There's a lot of work that goes through there, so ensuring that there's capacity building initiatives within the office, so that either includes advocating for more resources, whether it's looking into, again, the structure of the office, whether that's additional training, even for confidentiality protocols within the office itself, and ensuring that there's continuous governance best practices and equity focus and leadership opportunities. Will really hopefully invest in the development of the office while ensuring that it continues to operate at the high standard of excellence that it usually does. I would also really want to establish a framework for addressing some of the systemic concerns that might arise from these. So ensuring that feedback improvements to the process. So training on would come through like a collaborative and transparent approach. So hopefully reinforces the integrity of the work while really promoting a continuous refinement of governance procedures. I really do hope to act as an advocate for the Internal Affairs Office within the organization, really amplifying their importance and defending their independence. I can hope to really foster values that protect the essential role that they play in governance. And truly, at the end of the day, my goal is to really serve as an ally and a resource for the Internal Affairs Office, ensuring they feel empowered and supported while remaining confident, while keeping to preserve their confidentiality and anonymity were critical to their success.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Well, honestly, that was a really, really good answer. So, I mean, to add on to that, it's extremely important in any democracy that the office that oversees internal affairs and JCOM and is strictly independent. And I really do hope to build a relationship of trust, honesty, and open communication. To be honest, having seen now the judicial, the elections, and the JCOM team especially, I admire the work they do. I acknowledge that a lot of us have a lot to learn from them. And so one of the big things I would say is I would also have a lot of consultations with the teams. Shout out to the elections team. I probably sent them way too many emails about what can I do and what I can't do. So I think it's extremely important that the executives of the next AMS team learn from our internal Secretary of Affairs and office and continue that relationship of open communication. It's extremely important to ensure that they are independent and that there's no interference in what they do. I again admire what they do, but it's also important to have a really respectful and co-working relationship with the Secretariat and his or her or they's team. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, a lot of you had a really good answer. So it's that's all I would say about that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now begin closing remarks. Nico, we'll start with you.
Oh boy, all right. Sorry, I'm just gonna. First and foremost, I do want to start this off by thanking my team. I know you guys are watching online, and the amount of work that you guys have done, the dedication, the passion, it's the only reason why I have 8 hours of sleep. I think this election is so unique because it's the first deslated election. And I think for that reason, me and my opponent, Jenna, have extremely big responsibility to ensure that we set a standard for many generations to come. Hence why I'm personally inviting Jenna for a coffee chat after this election to discuss a little bit about our platform ideas and everything else, because I think regardless of who wins this election, I'm sure students will make a very, very tough decision. But regardless of who wins this election, I do know that The executive, especially the AMS executive, AMS president, is someone who cares, someone who's passionate, and someone who's willing to put the work day and night, 9 to 5 plus more, to ensure that students are heard. And I think that's very important. I also want to invite Jana, her team, our VP Ops candidate, our VP UA candidate, and their teams and their supporters to the town hall on January 30th to support the AMS, to support our busset fees, because I think it's important as student leaders that we organize and that we unite in causes that directly affect our student body. And for my final message, which may be my final message, my final message is this: get organized, stay united. There's a lot of issues ahead of us. It's been a pleasure to call this place my home. Give me a second. It's been a pleasure to call this place a home. It's been a pleasure to touch so many students and so many people. Sorry. I love this university, I love this community, I love the students, and I really, really hope that as a community, we can stand together and really, really make a positive change. Thank you.
Well, I guess you can consider this me saying yes to both. I'd love a coffee chat after, and yeah, you have my number, hit me up whenever. I'd love to go out to have a quick talk. But before we conclude tonight's debate, I do want to thank you all for taking your time to be here and sharing. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, all of you. Thank you to my team. Thank you to my family and my friends who have dealt with me in these past couple of days. I've been a little insufferable, unfortunately, and engaging in a lot of these important conversations that we're having about the future of the AMS. This election, as I think we've seen today, is not just about leadership, it's about representation. It's very personal and it's very emotional. It's about ensuring that every student really finds their community and feels seen and empowered and supported by the people around them and their government. I think I've had the privilege at my time here at Queen's to serve in a lot of these diverse roles, which have really allowed me to engage with students and address a lot of the different challenges many of us face, from advocating for equity through different programs and even the dedication that I've put into myself to change campus. I just want to reaffirm that I am running to be the next AMS president because I do believe in the potential of the AMS. I believe that it could be more accessible and collaborative and transparent, and my vision is really focused on breaking down a lot of those barriers and fostering a lot of student-led change as we continue to see every day, and really strengthening that trust between the AMS and our students. I really am committed to helping create a government that is approachable and also proactive in addressing your issues. I think tonight has demonstrated a lot of our dedications to this organization and a lot of our dedication for our future, and that's why we're all out here today, this late on a Thursday. I do believe that there is power in our collective voice and our ability to continue building a better campus together. This is not just my campaign, this is ours. It's a campaign for every student who wants to see an AMS that works for them. And it is a campaign that I helped build by a lot of your faces here today through a lot of the consultations and the opportunities to talk with you. Again, thank you for your time and engagement, and thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, that brings tonight's debate to a close. First of all, I'd like to start off by thanking all the candidates for being here tonight. I would also like to thank everyone who came out tonight. I want to give a special... I would like to give a special thank you to Sylvie, the Secretariat of Internal Affairs, for her guidance during this election season. I'd also like to thank our elections deputies for all their help and volunteer work. On that note, and it can't be said enough, we encourage you all to vote in this winter's AMS elections and referenda on January 29th and 30th. On behalf of Rebecca and I, thank you everyone.